seen you on a couple of the comment sections that I've done.
Yeah, I've just been watching them.
Oh, okay. Appreciate it.
Yeah. You seem like one of the
Um,
smarter ones.
I appreciate that as well. I'm a college student. Just
As am I.
hell yeah. Where do you go?
I go to
You
American
don't mind me asking.
University.
Where?
American University in D.C.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I actually go to University of Tennessee, Knoxville.
Nice.
SEC, go Vols. So yeah, I know Austin was wanting us to do a general topic on something. I wasn't sure if you had a topic to discuss or not.
Well, funny enough, Austin was actually my roommate at American University, so yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Introduced me to this app. But I'm willing to talk about anything. You know, I'm not like a Ted Cruz conservative, but I'm center right, so we could probably find a lot that we disagree on.
You said Ted.
I said I'm not
So
a Ted Cruz.
you're not a Ted Cruz conservative.
Yeah,
That's
but I'm a center
most
right.
of the party.
Yeah, I have a Kasich sticker on my car, for example.
Okay, Kasich. He was actually my favorite candidate of the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
He was the only one that I thought actually had any shot of competing because they were a lot of them were racing to the right at the earlier like the outset of the race, and I thought that was a massive mistake. It was populism, but it's not going to withstand go through the general election.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Let's see. Are you a Trump or Hillary or
I support
Gary Johnson? Yeah. Hey, honestly, Gary Johnson's a great choice. I mean, I've really considered voting for him, mainly because my vote's not going to count in Tennessee.
Yeah.
I'm still going to cast it because that's the civil thing to do. And I'm, that's the way you speak in your country.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you spread your ideals. So, no matter what, if you can, you should vote. And, it's either going to be Hillary Clinton or Gary Johnson. But yeah, I've considered Gary Johnson for sure. I've enjoyed some of the things he said, and I like how fiscal conservatives have a big pull with me.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah. I am a fiscal conservative to a certain extent. A lot of people don't call me that, and I normally don't call me that because people don't really know what I am.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that the government has way too many programs that cost way too much that can be simply eliminated and done better in the private sector, such as hospitals. I do believe that our veterans deserve the absolute very best, and they shouldn't be going to these cut rate VA hospitals that are absolute trash. I'm not sure if you've ever seen like what the waiting times or the treatment is like, but I've interviewed several veterans, and I've been there to a couple of clinics, and I was not impressed at all. Our armed services deserve a lot better than that, and that's one of the issues I have. So yeah.
Okay.
But that said, I do believe in universal health care and that we should be able to negotiate prices with Medicare companies and drug companies.
Well, with single payer, wouldn't it be the government doing the negotiating?
Yeah, but that government has so much power at the negotiating table.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about, I know I said on another kind of chat, it was, the recent issues with like Martin Shkreli and the EpiPen manufacturers. They're being able to do all this price gouging because we can't negotiate healthcare prices in our current system. We can't do that.
Well, part of the problem is that the FDA has prohibited the competitors from arising, which is limiting free market competition.
And that is, I'll tell you this, that's the opposing argument to that is the competition. Eliminate state barriers, let all insurance companies compete against all the states. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The issue with that is cost of living.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have varying rates against regions, or people in Tennessee, where I live, can't buy health insurance from places like Montana. So that's got to be an issue. Another issue with privatized healthcare is that it doesn't give you a whole lot of freedom if you want to change jobs. We've seen that, a lot of people have to keep their job because that's where they get their health benefits.
Yeah.
And single payer would allow people more mobility in that respect. Oh, I want to go across the country. Well, you can do that. I mean, you're not going to lose, your health insurance doing that. So,
yeah, I actually agree with that as well. I know that there's a term for that. That like it forces you to stay locked in your job because you have insurance. But part of my problem with our system right now is actually that we have a third-party payer problem. For example, instead of actually going up and paying for your monitor, you're having someone else pay for it. So you don't have as much of an incentive to shop around. So if you were to actually weaken health insurance companies and actually, as a matter of fact, weaken government, like Medicaid, Medicare, and actually make it more so that you pay more out of pocket through, for example, health savings accounts, you'd actually probably reduce costs overall across the board.
I'll be straight with you. I've got to do a little bit more research on that in particular. That said, I mean, from a theory, from just theoretical perspective, I mean, that sounds like I'd really like to look into that. What I would say is that, look, at the end of the day, the basic principle is this. There will always be more healthy people than sick people in this country. There will always be more young than old people in this country. That's how we do it. To go ahead and combine everybody together. Everybody gets the same health insurance. Everybody gets their needs taken care of. We already pay for illegals to go to the hospital. They don't have insurance. They're not paying it back. What? No. So we pay more in taxes to those hospitals than we need to as well. So it's a whole system that needs to be overhauled. And I've said before, Obamacare blows. I mean, it doesn't work. It gives insurers too much flexibility, and frankly, it doesn't have enough power. It doesn't go over all 50 states. It's got to be all or nothing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just not effective.
Yeah, on Obamacare, it's actually interesting. So since, as you probably, I mean, if you read the news, which I suspect you do, you see that a lot of insurers are pulling out of the state exchanges. Some states like West Virginia only have one health insurance provider. So they pretty much have a monopoly. So yeah, I agree with you that Obamacare is pretty disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely insane. And to say that we can't do anything about that, to say that, oh, well, these countries are going to have priority about what's best for the American people. No.
Yeah.
That's not. Yeah, of course not. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not all gung ho for socialism, but certain aspects of a socialistic government are necessary. That's why I say I'm a socio-libertarian.
Oh, so you're like a left libertarian, I guess, or is it different?
Again, a lot of people say that it's a flat line, left and right. It's really, it goes like this. It comes back. Fascism and communism are nearly the same.
Oh yeah, so you think it's like a circle? It's not a line. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. For sure. If you look at fascistic Germany and Soviet USSR, very similar constructions of government, very similar ways how they do things. Both definitely had their weaknesses, and nobody ever needs to be at any one of those extremes.
Yeah.
That's absolutely.
So fun stuff. Any other topics you want to discuss?
I feel like there was something that you said. Let's see here. I don't know. Austin was saying guns. Guns.
All right.
Okay, we can do guns. I'm game with guns. Again, I take a very moderate position to this. I'm all about personal freedoms. Everyone has every right to have a gun. What I'm saying is we should make it harder for some people to get them.
All right. So what are some restrictions you think that we need? Like more than what we have now, of course.
More than what we have now. Well, number one, universal background checks. That has to be in the equation.
All right.
Number two is closing the gun show loophole.
Yeah.
And I think there was something about keeping people from the no-fly list buying guns. I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these are common sense things. I don't know why there's any debate on them, to be straight with you.
All right. So in theory, I actually do agree with you that universal background checks would be the ideal, because both of us agree that criminals shouldn't have access to guns.
Absolutely.
Especially because if you want to take a look at it from a utilitarian point of view, guns in the hands of law-abiding citizens probably decrease crimes. Guns in the hands of criminals probably increase crimes. So you want to increase the number of guns law-abiding citizens have and decrease the number of guns that criminals have. And that's one of the big things that a background check, at least in theory, would accomplish. But there are a few problems I have with background checks as they are now currently being proposed. So the first,
can I make one point about what you just said?
Yes, sure.
You're in that what you just said, you're equating everybody as equal in terms of their responsibility with a gun, as far as training, as far as all this, some of these ideas like, oh yeah, we should arm teachers of schools. Are you serious?
Well, okay, I'm being kind of overly
we've had
simplistic.
Teachers actually get shot because of that. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm being a bit oversimplistic, of course, but I'm just trying to lay out like a general theoretical framework in that if you have responsible citizens that own firearms, generally that'll reduce crime because of the deterrence effect and because they'll use it for defense. And guns in the hands of irresponsible individuals or criminals will generally increase crime or in accident rates and such. So, is that a good basic theoretical framework to start with?
I would say
almost
yes, with one caveat in that I would include, because it's our Second Amendment.
Yeah.
We're not going to do away with guns. Let's include it actually in school curriculum. If we're going to have people own guns, let's actually teach them how best to use them, how to use them safely. Give people an actual respect for guns.
Oh, like sex ed for guns.
Yeah, essentially, sure. I'll go with that. Absolutely.
That's an interesting idea.
If it's going to be a right, then people have to be taught more about it. Absolutely.
All right. Okay. So with that kind of set down as our basic terms, so background check, the theories, of course, is meant not to affect people that are law-abiding and owning guns. It's meant to affect those who we don't want to own guns, buying them. But I still have a few problems with it that make it, how it's good in theory, how it makes me more skeptical of it in practice. So, one of the big problems is who pays for it, because gun buyers are usually have to pay a fee. For example, in New York, I think they have to pay $125. So if you have poor individuals who are law-abiding, because they're the ones that need the guns the most, they live in the dangerous neighborhoods, they need it for defense, because, when the cops are minutes away, that's when seconds count. So if we were able to make a system where either the government could pay for this or we could find for some way to subsidize it, I'd be more open to the idea. So that's just one problem. The second one is that background checks seem to not only affect criminals and those who we don't want to get guns, but they also affect people that we want to own guns from owning guns. There's been because the talking point that politicians say is that the Brady background checks have stopped 2.4 million people from owning guns, which is technically true. But it's more accurate to say initial denials, because for the vast majority of those who were stopped the first time, again, this is the current background check system, what happens is they get eventually are allowed to own a gun later after significant delays. Oftentimes they have to go to court, but usually after second review, they have to they eventually get a gun. But the simple fact is, it affects law-abiding citizens. So I think if we were to redo, like if we were to do a comprehensive one, if we were to able to find ways to end this problem, I would accept background checks. And the third one is that they're kind of used as de facto registration, which I have a problem with. So I think that so instead of keeping the records forever, so let's say we background checked me for keeping a gun, instead of keeping, my name's Kenneth, so keeping Kenneth bought this gun in forever, mm-hmm. I think if we were to able to do it in a system where it gets deleted after a few months or a few years, of course, like when I go back, they'll be put in the system again because I'm buying a gun, but that there's an automatic deletion system, so I'm not kept there permanently. That would also reduce my problems with it. So those are some of my theoretical, I guess, objections to how it would work in practice. But overall, I actually am open to the idea of universal background checks if we are to get them to work the way we want them to work.
Sure. Okay, let me take your comments in order. Mm-hmm. And please make sure I've got the point before I go forward on it. You're talking about fines for background checks.
Like fees, yeah.
Fees. Okay. Absolutely. I mean, I'd absolutely go for subsidization of them, if not government. Just go ahead and eliminate them, because if we're gonna go ahead and do this, we need to make sure that it's an established process. And I totally agree with you on that. Definitely subsidize, or government would pay for the fines.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. As far as redoing tax law, or regulations on guns, the thing is that you're saying this is more encumbersome to the citizen, the law-abiding citizen. Well, I'm sorry, that's just going to have to do, because we're also making it much more encumbersome on the criminal. We're just because we can't solve the problem doesn't mean that zero regulation has to be done on it. Absolutely, we should have waiting periods. Why do you need a gun so quick? If you need a gun to go hunting, buy it a week in advance. That's not that hard. It's not interfering with your rights in whatever way in that. From what I've heard, though, I mean, gun rights activists on the right, like Antonin Scalia, in a recent, not a recent because he's dead now, but I guess it was a couple months ago, several months ago, in a case, said that he didn't see what was wrong with somebody buying an assault rifle and gifting it to somebody else. He didn't see why that was illegal. That's the current position with the NRA. It's no gun reform at all should be passed, and that position's untenable.
Well, I actually think the NRA's endorsed universal background checks. It's just that
that's not true.
I think it is. I think if we look it up, I think they would support it.
If they did, and frankly, I find that actually amazing to believe, and I don't think that's possible, to be straight with you. Please look it up, because I know, you're on the computer.
Well, no, I think they support the background check system we have in place. I think they oppose expanding it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, but okay. So there you go. The NRA's position is and will always be no more regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what it is. And that is not a position that is healthy for the United States when we've had so many homicides, mass shootings. I mean, even terrorists know it. There was a video with Abu Ghadal, mm-hmm. where he literally said, Islamic extremists, go to America. Look how easy it is to buy guns. It's amazing. It's amazingly easy. To say that we can just get these guns off the rack at Walmart for $600 is insane.
Well, Walmart has a federally licensed dealer, so they actually do have to go through a background check system. They have
Right.
to go
Again,
through the NCIS
how
background checks.
easy? Okay, I'll put it to you this way: when the price goes up on the supplier, does the price go up or down on the consumer?
Well, I mean, it's going to go up on the consumer, but okay. So here's the
Right.
problem: the controls that
You
you're
see what I'm saying?
advocating for are going to affect law-abiding citizens more, at least in the current state. You could always make a system
Sure
where it
will.
doesn't. I mean, if the problems that I
It'll
pointed
affect
out
law-abiding
could be fixed, and
citizens.
they could be. I mean, the problems I pointed out could actually be fixed with certain legal changes. But if we don't change that, then the effect is mostly going to harm law-abiding citizens and not criminals. Because if you look at how criminals get their guns, they don't go to your neighborhood Walmart and buy the gun. They usually go to their neighborhood drug dealer and say, "Hey, yo, thank you for the weed. Can I have a pistol as well?"
Perfect.
Or they'll
Perfect.
say, "Hey, I'm
Hey,
gonna go rob my friend."
let me connect it to the war on drugs then, because it's
Oh, I
very
support
simple.
legalization as well.
Well, okay. Well, okay. So we're talking about getting rid of some you know, okay. It's going to be make it more difficult for people to get guns. Shit, let me reword this. Okay. Since it's going to be harder for law-abiding citizens, to get guns, if we increase regulations, we shouldn't do them. But we should just get rid of, or I'm sorry, we're supposed to have laws on the books about drugs. It's not going to solve our drug problem, but it will help, will it not? Won't these regulations curb back some of this, some of the issues we've been having?
Oh, like, do I think drug laws reduce drug use? I would actually argue that yes, they do have a modest effect on drug use.
Okay, all right.
I mean, they have some effects. It's
There's
not like a
not a
large effect.
drug-free prison in America.
No, I understand that. I mean, I
You're
support
trying to get
legalization
that out of, right, of pot,
of everything,
of everything.
heroin, meth.
Well then, I am. I'm slightly surprised. I don't normally find anybody with that position. I don't actually support. What?
Oh, that's
Is that
Austin.
Austin? Yeah. I don't actually support legalization of everything. I draw the line at a certain point.
Mhm.
Meth and heroin have to be controlled to a certain extent. Once we get, say, if you can go to a corner store and say, okay, I'll take an Adderall and a Xanax, you're not going to have really any use for getting meth and heroin.
Well, I mean, if they
You
have no use for it, then
just
why not let them get it if they want it?
and that's what I would argue. I mean, it's I would say decriminalize instead of legalize, but either way,
I guess I'd take that over what we have now as a
it
compromise.
would. Well, I mean, regardless, it'll never pass.
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
right.
not in 50 freaking years. I mean, if I actually campaigned on anything close to that, it would be death immediately. I mean, what? Oh, you like heroin users?
Yeah, especially in Tennessee.
Yeah. Well, I would never run in Tennessee, and I'm not going to run in the next 15 years. So
Yeah.
I'm chilling. I've got a career to build before that happens.
And then you move to California and run.
Colorado.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's for me. I've enjoyed it more. I'm a festy head. I go all over the place. That's one of my favorite states.
Colorado's nice. Yeah, I lived in New Mexico, so I went up there a lot.
Cool. Yeah.
Gary Johnson.
Yeah. Well, hey, like I said, man, Gary Johnson's a whole lot better than Donald Trump, and I tell Republicans all the time, hey, you need to take a look at this guy because he's a great alternative. That said, I mean, you and I both know if he doesn't get on the debates, he doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell on even, I mean, scratching the surface at 10%.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think he's going to get in.
I don't think he will either.
Yeah.
No, there's not any media coverage on him. Nobody.
Yeah.
This society, unfortunately, is pretty complacent and doesn't really want to do too much extra research on what the hell they're talking about. I talked to this one girl a little bit earlier, and I was like, "So why do you support Trump?" And she was like, "Well, he's not Hillary." I'm like, "All right, that's not a reason." Unfortunately, like let's talk about this like adults. Like let's do our research.
And I guess you could say the same thing. Why don't you support why do you support Hillary? Because he's not Trump. Yeah. So
well,
I'm agreeing with you.
okay.
I'm just saying that
No,
question goes both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, you're turning it on me, and yeah, no, that's a perfectly fair question. And based on what I just said, it sounds like it is. No, and I've said several times that Hillary should be held account for some of the things, her overthrow in Honduras, what her and Bill did in Kosovo, Bosnia. When we look at the Clinton Foundation accepting foreign donations as a conflict of interest, emails is stupid. I don't. It's not even a scandal. Everything else, though, the things that aren't being talked about are.
Yeah.
And okay, so why do I still support her? She knows the policy better. She knows than anybody in the race. I mean, she is a straight policy person.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't do crowd events for shit, but she does know what she's talking about when it comes to world foreign policy, especially. She will be most likely one of the best foreign policy presidents we'll ever have. I think a lot of people are going to hate her because she just doesn't know how to communicate very well at all. But she knows what she's talking about. She's got connections with, I mean, every country. Every country talks to her because they know that Clintons still have a lot of power and that they're going to be more globalistic than just about anybody.
Yep. And Trump's already alienated, everyone.
Oh, I mean, I actually wrote a piece. It's funny. I wrote a piece about the demographics on the election and how Trump was doomed the first speech that he ever took.
Yep.
You've eliminated gays, Latinos, African Americans, women,
moderates.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think I called it the mountain too steep to climb.
Yeah.
You can't come back for that.
Also, where'd you publish it?
It was on, let's see here. I've got it on my WordPress, but I've also got it for I probably need to look that up. It was for the university deal.
Sweet.
My WordPress, I'll throw you my WordPress here in a second and you can look at it. But
sure.
no, yeah, I mean, it's just that's the issue. I mean, he just can't really make that jump. He's got what, 1% polling with African Americans?
I think so.
Yeah, you're not getting back from that. I mean, so yeah, Trump's done. Hillary, I think, versus Gary, the reason I choose her is because I think that she's going to be able to get more Democratic issues through the Congress because this will go back to a Democratic Congress. Down ballot braces, Trump's absolutely killed the GOP.
Do you think the House is going to flip as well?
I
think the House is going to stay.
I think it will too, and I think it'll be a close margin. But the Republicans have done such a good job on the state level. I mean, I've really got to give them credit for, just the pure domination, frankly, of state governments and local governments. Amazing. Oh yeah, they'll probably keep the House. I think by narrow though. Yeah. But yeah, Hillary's gonna win.
I think so as well.
Yeah. let's see here. You said you're in Washington.
Yes, I'm in DC.
That's awesome. What have been the big topics around there recently?
Oh, well, I mean, I just got here a few weeks ago, so I'm not fully in tune with the whole local issues yet. I'm a freshman.
Okay. You're a freshman. Oh, I'm a senior actually. So, welcome
Sweet.
to the welcome to the life. But no, I mean college is going to be great for you, bro. What's your major?
I think economics. That's the route I'm going to take.
I was an economics major and switched over to journalism, political science major, economics minor. But
Something that would cause me to do that would be the math.
Dude, honestly, the math isn't that hard. It's more theory than anything. You'll start looking at the Keynesian cross and some of the classic conservative thinkers, and I think you'll really enjoy it. The way you've been talking, I think you'll get a kick out of it.
It's gonna be fun.
You're good with theory.
I actually have Keynes' general theory over here.
Oh, y'all already taking a look at it?
Yeah, it's written really weirdly.
I'm personally more of a Hayek man myself.
I think I might have Road to Serfdom over here as well.
Oh, really? Heck yeah. Okay.
Let's see if I have it.
Y'all are some y'all are kicking it over there. I feel it.
Let me see.
I would also suggest Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, and I'm not a complete follower of hers, but I would suggest the book. It's a very interesting book.
That's actually one book I should read because my dad read it, and I know what it is, but I never read the whole thing. I've just read parts of it.
Well, it's a very good take on social economy and the way you make yourself better, and by making yourself better, make the society better. And she had some very good points in it.
Yeah.
I think I disagree with her on some points, but arguably it's one of for me it's either that or the Fountainhead. Obviously for me and Rand, but those two books are I would say are most reads for sure.
Yeah. Looters, moochers, and producers.
What is that in reference to?
Oh, I think that's one of her theories. That there's three kinds of people in society. Yeah. Probably simplistic, but also kind of realistic.
Very pessimistic, maybe.
I mean, not if you're a producer.
Well, sure, but not. See, the thing that I think of in that is that a lot of them are actually intertwined. You can be both a producer and a reproducer per se.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways you can be in that society, and to represent all classes of American society as one of three is
silly.
Yeah, it's a little simplistic. I also think that we have an actual duty to represent all citizens, and that means providing for the general welfare.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you support like a universal basic income?
I wouldn't go that far.
No,
frankly, no. I'll take a look at it when Finland gets done with some of their experiments. They just enacted it. I'll take a look at what happens when it goes to the real
Interestingly enough, I actually support that. I support that as a replacement to the current system, not an add-on. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it puts you to the left of me.
No, because Hayek supported that as well.
I mean, yeah, but I don't take everything Hayek said as gospel either.
Well, no. I know what you mean, but I'm just saying that, you have Milton Friedman, you have Hayek. So I really think that you can be on either side of the aisle and support universal basic income.
Look, I'm all for it if
works.
We get more information. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's a wonderful principle in theory. I need that extra extra data.
Well, the problem with Finland is I don't think they're replacing. I think they're adding it on top. So I think that's a problem I would have with it. because you would just be exacerbating the current problems that our system has instead of eliminating. Like so there's something called a welfare cliff, where because our system, of course, you get less as you make more. So our system is made really weirdly in the sense that if you start making more, you'll there's like certain cliffs. So you'll be making more money going up, and then you go down. So the way that works is you make an extra few dollars, and then your welfare gets cut by more than you're making, so you actually lose money. If that makes sense.
I'm sorry. Do you support the flat tax?
I do not.
Okay, I was about to say that.
Austin does.
Do some research, please.
I support the X tax.
What, $16 trillion in debt is what we blow in our national budget if we went up to the flat tax. I mean, that's ridiculous.
No.
Give me a break.
Not with lowering government spending.
Oh. Guess what? Government spending's increased under the last 4 presidents. Okay? That includes Republicans and Democrats. Hey. Nobody in office wants to give themselves...
Austin, stop.
Actually, Reagan collected quite a bit in tax. Take a look at his tax levels, or how much revenue he created in tax versus other presidents in that same time.
Well, arguably, it's because he lowered them in the sense that so lowering taxes doesn't always increase revenue, of course. But before Reagan came into office, the marginal tax rate was 70%, which is probably above the revenue maximizing point. So even though 28%, which is where it eventually ended up, is probably below the revenue maximizing point as well, it was less down the curve than 70%. So that's part of the reason revenue increased.
You could definitely that does make sense. What I would say is that definitely makes sense for that time.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll notice that the policy hasn't changed since then.
Yeah,
we've kept pretty much the same things, and we obviously.
I think we've added a few extra brackets, but
I mean, yeah, but it's not high enough. The issue again, or a different issue, is that we give out way too much money in government subsidies to some of these corporations.
I agree with that as well. I 100% agree.
And that's that's another thing that makes me conservative. A fiscal conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't really realize that, but that is part of it as well. Of course, some of these issues are actually, if we want to instill the free marketplace, if we're adamant about having a free marketplace, then let's make it a free marketplace. Let's not, give these billion-dollar contracts to companies and make them better than the little guy. Mm-hmm. I'm all for small business.
Yeah,
I'm a massive small business guy. And unfortunately, we've had our lowest levels of small businesses to corporations in history.
Yeah.
So I think that's a major issue.
Yeah, I think the Brookings Institution wrote about that a while ago as well. How there's reduced business dynamism.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that. That's I did not see that article, but yeah, I'll take a look at that. Yeah, I mean, I literally just I watch the news, but I also do my own research.
Yeah.
A lot of different things to have. Man, y'all have such an opportunity to go and interview Capitol and talk to them.
I was actually at the Cato Institute yesterday at one of their immigration events. They were talking about immigration.
Yeah. How was that?
It was actually pretty interesting. Of course, Cato's pro-immigrant. I actually am pro-immigrant as well. So they were giving their view on they had multiple seminars throughout the day. I had classes, so I went to the one at the end of the day, and that was about how immigrants affect political institutions. Because, one of the big arguments that against immigration that conservatives make is, they're all going to come and vote Democrat. They're going to bring in socialism. But the evidence that they were pointing out actually showed the opposite, that economic freedom usually increased when you had more immigrants, which I thought was really interesting.
Well, it did, yeah. But what they're really actually referencing is like this election. Mm-hmm. There's been a surge in Latino voters. There's been a massive surge in it.
I'm technically a Latino voter, actually.
Oh, cool! Heck yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm white, but I'm technically over 50% Hispanic.
Okay.
Deportation.
Yeah. Deport me.
Of course not. I'm happy you're here, and fucking you were probably born here anyway, which
I
is
was, and my mom was
yeah,
Puerto Rican,
exactly.
so citizenship immediately still.
That's the funniest part. Donald Trump had a judge that was actually born in Indiana, but he was part Latino. So
yeah, the Curiel or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And oh man, I was laughing for so long about that.
That was so bad.
Well, it's an everyday thing. It's almost like the bed of nails principle. I'd really say it is, in that he has so many crazy comments, so many just off the wall things that it really takes off from some of the other things. You can't focus on that one thing he said. It's, oh, he said what again today?
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. And I mean, again, he
I can't tell if he's doing it on purpose or if he just doesn't care or if he is dumb. I don't think he's dumb, but I have no clue what the logic is behind this.
Honestly, I think that
he wants
a lot of people
to
are giving him more credit than he's worth. A lot of people are saying that he's doing it on purpose. So he's intentionally ruining his brand on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
People all over the globe don't like him now.
Yeah.
That's not good for his purpose, his personal image. So is he doing it on purpose? Is this? No. I don't really think so. I think he took an idea and a feeling.
Just ran.
And well, it was fostered. It was fostered for so long by, Fox News doing their thing 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
It was fostered by so many different conservative voices that
somehow
this nation was failing. It was failing them. That we had no respect for armed forces anymore. We were getting away from what made America great, and he took that and ran with it, and he tapped into one issue and took off. If he hadn't landed on immigration, we wouldn't have this conversation right now.
Well, illegal immigration would have still been an issue. It just wouldn't have been as big of an issue.
Oh,
because they were talking about illegal immigration since the 80s. Reagan, in his debates, I would ask him, "Do you support amnesty?" He said, "Yes, I support amnesty." Right. He said, if you actually watch those debates, it's actually kind of funny how close the issues are. They talk about Iran, they talk about taxes.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing, actually. If you notice, if you go back and look at Bush's immigration policy, if you look at Walker's immigration policy, Rubio's immigration,
Jeb's.
Yeah, well, Bush, yeah. Jeb's. I mean, about everybody's immigration policy was pretty similar. It was all e-tracking, visas, keeping a tight watch on people overstaying visas, but it wasn't nothing even close to building a wall in Mexico is going to pay for it.
I think most of them even included legalization or like at least some form of legalization.
Process of citizenship, and I agree with that as well. Of course, we should. How better to collect taxes from these people than to say, all right, you know what, we fucked it up in the first place. Come on in. You're paying your fair share of taxes. We're going to get you into the system, and we're not going to waste money sending you back to Mexico.
Yep. There's actually an interesting study that estimated the cost of that, and it was huge. Let me look it up right here.
Well, there was another study on the wall itself on how much that would cost.
No, this is the economic cost of removing them. So it was okay, I found it. It's by the American Action Forum, which is actually a conservative think tank. So it says that to deport all 11 million immigrants, it would cost $400 to $600 billion. And beyond that, GDP would shrink by $1.6 trillion.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying.
Well, even further than that, think about the thing is, too, is we've got due process in this country.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me we're going to process 11 million people. There's not enough hours in the day to do that.
Well, do illegal immigrants because if they're not citizens, do they still get the same rights? Because I think we have a lot that the children do, but I don't know about the adults.
They're still in this country. They still get due process. Yeah. It was the same issue with torture.
Mm-hmm.
Should Guantanamo, for example, which is a U.S. Territory in Cuba, should they get due process? Should they be allowed to be tortured on American soil? And I'm actually against torture.
Mm-hmm. So am I.
I don't think that you can have yeah, I mean, no, of course. How are you going to have a moral standing in the world when you're drowning people essentially? I mean, that's you can. How are you going to condemn anybody for gulags and things like that when have you seen the pictures and the statements coming out of Guantanamo? Have you seen some of that stuff? It's incredible.
Should be children's stories.
Oh my God.
Pureeing food and then inserting it rectally to force them to eat and to demonstrate dominance over them is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And to intimidate them sexually, literally, they'd strip them down and make fun of them and videotape it and share it around. Like that's what they did. If you're for that, then you can have that on your conscience, but that's not right in any sense of the word.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So
Public hangings.
I think he's just trolling.
I'm actually. Well, I know it is. I'm actually against the death penalty, totally though.
I see that. In my state, it's illegal.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, New Mexico.
New Mexico. That's right. Well, I think Gary Johnson actually made it illegal. He was the one who signed that.
I don't know if it was Johnson or if it was Richardson. I think it was Richardson, but let me look it up. Though I do think Johnson's an abolitionist as well. Yeah, it was Johnson.
It was Johnson. Yeah. That's. I thought.
I mean Richardson, because it was in 2009, and Johnson was in the early 2000s and 90s.
Oh, well, I messed up on that one then. I must have heard that New Mexico is a no death penalty state.
Yeah.
Yeah. I messed up on that one though. No, yeah. I'm against that. I would say, legalize marijuana.
So Johnson actually supported the death penalty when he was governor, but now he believes that the death penalty as public policy is flawed.
That's a very interesting terminology. Okay. Flawed.
I mean, he's a politician, of course.
Yeah, but saying that it's flawed is a position in itself, is it not?
Okay, looking at his statements, it is not efficient because it is neither swift nor sure. So it looks like he simply wants to make it more effective, not ban it, which is interesting.
So firing squads?
I don't think he's talking about firing squads. I just think that he wants to reduce the number of appeals to reduce the cost, and he wants it to be swift to deter crime.
Death penalties don't determine criminals.
But in 2011, he did change his opinion. As governor of New Mexico, I was a bit naive and did not think the government made mistakes with regard to the death penalty. I came to realize that they do. I don't want one innocent person to be punished to death. So it looks like he opposes it now.
Yeah.
I understand that position. I'm personally lukewarm in favor of it, but I understand the opposition, and I honestly would not mind it if it got banned. Like, I don't think the world would fall. I don't think the sky would fall.
Yeah. My actual main opposition from it, aside from I don't think that the government should really be in the business of killing U.S. citizens, is a lot of the death penalties carried out in the 2000s, 90s, when Europe actually cut off all of our supplies for the death penalty.
Oh, yeah.
And there were a lot of botched executions. Yes, absolutely. Made
There were some
masks.
recent ones as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I agree with Europe on that one. We shouldn't make drugs to kill people.
Yeah. Well, there's one way you could do it where the supplies wouldn't be a problem. I don't know how effective it would be. So I know that Belgium, or maybe it's Netherlands, they have like a euthanasia machine, so it uses nitrogen. So they use nitrogen asphyxiation, and we could theoretically do that here. I don't know how effective it would be and how painless that is. But if we could figure out a way for that to work, yet again, then you also get like the gas chambers, and that's kind of terrifying.
Well, I agree with euthanasia if the subject in question agrees to it.
But I'm just saying, like, I'm not necessarily saying that I'm for or against euthanasia. I'm just saying that I wonder if we could use this because they use nitrogen asphyxiation. They put a mask on, so I'm just wondering if we could use the same thing.
We could. What I would say, and I probably should have said this earlier. I don't think we should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for moral reasons.
For moral reasons.
Yeah.
One. Number two is the people that deserve the death penalty. After death, there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to be able to think about it every single day. I want them to look back on the years that they spent in prison and think about that day. And I want them to think about the mistakes they've made. I want them to anguish in their own minds about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to get away that easy.
But a lot of them, because when they get captured, most of them appeal for life without parole, which makes me think that they fear death more than they feel about going to prison.
That's fine.
So I mean, if they fear death more, I don't see why we shouldn't give them what they don't like the most.
Because you know, there's again, it depends for a lot of people. If you think that when they die they go to hell and suffer for it, then
I'm a deist, so no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't see why we can't keep them alive. And hey, oh yeah, you want to be super happy in your 8x6, 8x8, 8x10. Go ahead, have a blast. Every time you think about what your life could have been like, every time you think about how you could have done that. And by the way, I mean I don't really agree that a lot of people fear death overly much. I've seen
I only fear immigrants.
Well, there's better things to fear, brother. Sorry.
He's just trolling.
Oh, I know. No, I mean but yeah. That's where I come down on that.
Yeah, that's a reasonable position.
Yeah, I try, man. Done a lot of research on this, and just through either public policy or looking through history, regulations that we've had. I mean, there's a lot of things we can improve on this country for sure. I don't think that Gary Johnson is going to be able to do that. I think that there's only one clear, real winner. It's going to be there, but I think that after her, our generation of people is going to start taking control of public life.
Yeah,
and you're going to see a steady march left. I mean, very steady as soon as the religious right, after this election, essentially, the religious right's going to be done, and they're going to cease to be a really meaningful voting bloc. And it's over.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see. Of course, I hope not. Of course, but I think I honestly think that you're right on that.
Well, I mean, you say you don't think that the religious right.
No. I think it's gonna die, and I agree with you that the left is on the rise. I'm just saying that of course, I hope not.
Why don't you hope that?
Well, because I'm a conservative. Of course, I'm not like a religious conservative, but I'm a conservative.
I mean, yeah, you can change your identification, though. That's not a reason to...
Well, no, because if we start marching left, then of course, then I'm like in the dust.
No, you're not.
What do you mean? Are you talking about socially?
Well, couple things. Number one, never are you left in the dust. You elect people that represent your interests best. You always have a chance to shape that national conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is, what if we continue to have the religious right? Is it a good or bad thing? I would say it's a bad thing. What does the religious right stand for? What does it try to do? Gay rights, no. No abortions, Oh, well, I can, I don't like you telling me that I can't have guns, but you can't have an abortion because I know what's best for you. And you're going to hell if not. I don't think that's moral or right or, frankly, even legal.
Well, even if I still think that the pro-life movement will survive, even if secularism rises as well.
Yeah, it will. It's going to diminish, but yeah.
I don't know. I actually think, because if you look at the polls, it used to be pro-choice was way ahead of pro-life. But in the last few decades, it's actually gotten pretty neck and neck. And it seems to be neck and neck across generations as well. Actually, I found an interesting theory on that. One of the theories as to why that's happening is because pro-abortion people are more likely to, abort their kids. So they have fewer.
Oh, come on. I'm sorry, but that whoever wrote that article is a piece of trash bigot, frankly. Are you serious? No, what was implied there, and I've heard this sentiment from other essentially racists, is that, oh, well, the pro-choice people are going to normally be minorities. They're normally going to be inner city black people. And, of course, they're not going to help their own movement. They're going to kill their own kids and all this other bullshit. No. Give me a break. Come on.
Well, I mean,
be literally serious.
Well, I mean, in their view, they aren't killing anything.
That wasn't
so
you. Sorry. I kind of just went off there for a second. Sorry.
On the author, yeah, I just read it. I didn't say I believed it or not.
No, yeah, I know.
I mean, it might have a marginal effect, but I mean, it's not going to flip it that much.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not going to flip it at all. People that are alive are the only people that can decide the question.
Well, I mean, I agree with you, but even if we take out judgment, I'm not let's say I don't judge whether this lady has an abortion. Let's say I'm pro-life and I have kids. Let's say I have 3 kids. Let's say she has 2 kids because one of them, she was a teenager. She got pregnant by accident. So she, she dealt with that the way she felt as though she needs to deal with it. And if she's pro-abortion, then, I mean, she has 2 kids that are probably going to grow up to be pro-abortion. I'm going to have 3. So, of course, okay, I'm not saying that, that's the reason that the polls have gotten closer and that's why the pro-life movement has risen. I'm just saying that there probably is some effect, even if you take the very condescending tone that the author actually did, in fact, make.
That's what I figured. What I would say is correlation's not causation. And that a lot of people that I know,
oh man, I like
that profess a belief in anything didn't really get it from their parents.
Mm-hmm.
Although, usually if that's the case, it's usually along nationalist or some type of lines like that.
Mm-hmm.
But both my parents are conservative. I don't believe what they believe.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you have differences of opinion with your parents. So just because there's a person that believes in abortion doesn't mean that their kids are any guaranteed to be into it as well.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So, I mean, for me, do you believe in judgment?
What do you mean?
Like ultimate judgment? Because you stated earlier.
No, what I meant about taking out judgment, I mean me not judging someone else. I don't mean God judging them. If that makes sense.
Right. I mean, we judge everyone.
No, yeah, I know. But I was making a hypothetical.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I feel you.
Be on taxes.
Taxes?
Yeah. How about these? You said something about flat tax, or?
Oh, I mean, flat tax is a dumb idea.
I support the Bradford X tax. Yeah.
What about the?
I'm sorry.
I support the Bradford X tax, which is like a progressive consumption tax.
Yeah, progressive consumption taxes are absolutely necessary. Flat taxes. The original idea was like, oh, let's make everything equal. That said, when we're talking about corporations that are making billions of dollars, and we're talking about, entrepreneurs that might have made a lot of money. What's up?
Oh no, that's Austin asking me. I said Bradford X tax, like the letter X.
I personally don't know the details of that particular tax plan. I'll have to look that up as well. But I'm talking generally. Flat tax has never been shown to work, and it'll blow a very decisive hole in our budget.
Unless if you want to have a super high one, of course.
Unless if you want.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's if you want to have like just a regular one. I'm sure if you had a flat tax of 80%, we'd be able to pay our bills. But I'm not sure that's what you're. That's not what you're proposing. Flat taxes just don't work. When we're talking about, corporations are people. Technically, they're entities. They're individual entities. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to tax those corporations at a lot higher than we tax normal Americans. For instance, we can't just be indiscriminate. And by the way, I don't think that corporations are people, and we need to make a tax bracket just for them. But
yeah, well, we already have a corporate tax, so we already have.
It needs to be upgraded,
like increased.
Yes,
I actually would disagree with that.
You're the largest in the world.
Well, no, it's not necessarily like we do have the highest in the world, but it's not necessarily just that. So there's actually a lot of interesting academic research on this, and it generally finds that it's not the CEOs, it's not the corporation paying for this. What they'll do is they'll pass it down to their workers, so they'll pay them less. They won't hire them. They'll change their composition. They'll get rid of workers. So this burden of the flat tax generally falls in the backs of the middle class and the poor, not the CEO, not the boardroom directors, which is kind of unfortunate.
I'm right there with you, but you've got to increase the minimum wage then to fight back against that. And I know Austin isn't about that.
Oh, I'm not either. I want to abolish it.
Okay. You want to?
Dude, you thought I was extreme.
I'm sorry. What?
I would like to abolish the minimum wage.
Let's hear this. Let's go.
You just had a very cohesive argument, cogent argument about what corporations do to lower class citizens when their bottom line isn't being met, and you're telling me, oh yeah, they're going to have the employees' best interests at heart.
I'm actually not saying they have the best interests at heart. The argument for
right.
So the arguments against the minimum wage is that the simple fact is the minimum wage does not guarantee anyone a job. All it does is say it's illegal to hire you if you are not productive at this wage level. That's all the minimum wage says. So if you look at the effect the minimum wage has on employment, there's a large literature review done on this in 2008 by economists David Newmark and William Washire. A 10% increase in the minimum wage has about a 3% decrease in employment. And some studies even find larger effects on that. But my position on the minimum wage, of course, isn't necessarily full abolish. Is this? So I think the federal government should get rid of it. Each state should be able to set their own because, of course, as you were talking about earlier in the healthcare discussion, there's different living standards. So I guess my inaccurate description of my position is not that I support abolishing it. It's that I support different states setting their own minimums where they think is proper. If that makes sense.
It does. I would say there's got to be a federal level, bottom level. Okay, there's got to be a federal floor. So a state can't just go, oh well, our minimum wage is $1 type shit. Clearly, that's not gonna make anybody money. The thing is because we have such a good economy right now, everybody's trying to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to keep a false competitiveness, essentially, to the marketplace. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, they're what you want, $10 for this job. I'll give somebody else, $5. Talk about illegal immigration, things that spur it. I'm in the South. Literally, I know people that employ illegal immigrants because it's cheaper. I'm not going to call immigration on them or anything, but I know those people. That's how that issue started in the first place.
Yeah.
So, that's my question, I guess, is why would you do away with that floor when we've already established that corporations don't have the American people's interest at heart? They're making more money to, more money for their bottom line instead of helping out other people. Why would I play favorites for them when we give them billions of dollars in subsidies every year?
Well, so you're just saying that if we were to abolish the minimum wage, you think that wages would decline across the board? Is that kind of the issue you have?
Yes.
Okay. So, to start out with theory, I'll go into some academic evidence after this. But to start out with theory, wages aren't set in a boardroom with smoke and fat guys sitting around the corner laughing and cackling. Haha, you're getting 5 cents.
Are you serious?
No, it's set through the same way.
Address me as a serious person, please. Come on.
No.
Of course, that's not what's happening.
Of course, I'm exaggerating. The way that wages are set is through supply and demand. It's set the same way that prices are. So the simple fact is, if you're getting paid $5 an hour at this one firm, and then the firm next door says, "Hey, I need a cashier. I don't have a cashier. Hey, I'll pay you $5.50." The cashiers are going to start flocking to the place where they get 50 cents more.
Yeah.
So wages would fall in the sense that you have people getting, like right now, the minimum is $7.25 nationally. Pay would fall in the sense that you have people that currently aren't working right now joining the labor force, working at $6, $5, $4 an hour. But the people that are employed now probably wouldn't see much of a wage decrease, if at all, based on, of course, basic supply and demand, how wages are set theory. Now, in the sense that there's some academic evidence as well. Newmark and Washoe actually have a book called Minimum Wages, and it just reviews the literature on this issue. It's kind of boring, but it's also interesting at the same time. They actually have a whole section on, because they actually don't support abolishing the minimum wage. They support just lowering it. But they have a page saying what theoretically would happen if we abolished it to wages. And in many states, they look at California specifically, even though at the time that the survey was done, minimum wages were above $11 an hour. Illegal immigrants who, of course, aren't paid minimum wage were getting paid that much because supply and demand. There was a lot of demand for that low-skilled labor, and there's, of course, a large supply, but there wasn't a supply large enough to meet that demand. And then they also looked at London. Some areas in London abolished the minimum wage. Well, guess what? Wages did not fall after that. Switzerland still does not have a minimum wage. Sweden, and this is actually an interesting thing with Sweden and Denmark, and I think Norway as well, but I'm not sure. They don't have minimum wages, but it's set by sector by a labor union. So if unions were stronger in this country, that would actually be a very interesting way, kind of middle ground, where you could get rid of the minimum wage, but it would be set by each sector. And I don't know if that would work here. It'd be an interesting concept, though.
That would be an interesting concept. The only thing I would say on that is that a lot of those European countries also have higher regulations.
Well, Switzerland doesn't.
We have here. As far as business practices, no. But when you look at like the personal level, the local level, their taxes are like personal taxes are a lot higher. They do pay for university healthcare, infrastructure, a lot more stuff. And by the way, their education level's higher, and a lot of other things are higher as well.
Well, part of that's all because they have a more generally free market. But I really don't think that Switzerland's taxes are that high. I think it never really goes above 40%.
Right, but we don't have anything close to 40%.
Well, our top rate is 42% if you count Medicare taxes that have been added due to Obamacare. Or is it Medicaid taxes? I'm not sure which one.
Right, I wasn't going with that. I thought it was about like 38 without Medicare.
It's 39.6 without the taxes that Obamacare added, and it's 41%, I think, if you add those taxes in. Okay. And I think the max tax rate in Switzerland is 40%, so it's about the same as ours. Right. And in some areas, it's actually a little bit lower. It's 22% in certain municipal areas.
Right. The thing is also though is that when you look at Switzerland's economy, it's mostly based on the financial sector.
Mm-hmm.
We're more of a consumer-oriented society.
Well, I mean, we could change that, of course. I mean, if we had the same policies as Switzerland,
we have way too many people for that.
I know, but we could become a banking haven.
Market. I mean,
if we were like Ireland, who has like a 5% corporate tax rate, or is it 6%?
Right, and that's why there's these inversions going over there. Which, by the way, Apple has to pay several billion in dollars in missing taxes to Ireland now because they were trying to skip out on them. I mean, no, we've got to rein in corporations to let them just go and to say, release the beast is not the answer. We've seen what's happened when corporations have complete control of the economy, and they've wrecked it. So I don't find that argument is that persuasive.
But see, I'm not pro business.
Big banks are the ones. What's up?
I'm not pro business. I'm not pro big business. I actually genuinely think that if we were to reduce government control, that businesses would shrink because businesses have been abusing our government. They've been abusing power, and they've been getting regulations that prevent competition from arising. And I really think if you strip those away, that there'll be more dynamism. It'll be easier for small businesses to arise. It'll be easier for small businesses to compete. It'll be easier for new businesses to take over. And I mean, corporations already have a decent turnover rate. I mean, they go bankrupt all the time. But I genuinely believe, and I could be wrong on this, but I think the evidence pretty much backs up my point, that when the government is smaller, corporations are weaker.
That's not true. Because if you look at, say, Africa, where there aren't a whole lot of governmental protections, corporations are doing just fine there. They're making bankrolls off of those.
Okay, look, but we have different institutions than those countries, so I think it's unfair to compare us to them. In the United States, we will have a government that will enforce contracts. We have a government that has a basic set rule of law. These countries don't have a rule of law at all. I'm not advocating that we be Somalia. I'm not advocating that, we get AKs and yell Allahu Akbar and run around everywhere.
No. You're saying that since corporations can pay off delegates and people in power, political power, off, that they have more power now than they ought to or should have.
Well, okay, so one of the reasons in our system that politicians are so bribable is because there's a reason for corporations to invest. They know, hey, if I get this senator to vote for my regulation bill, if he gets this rider, it'll make sorry.
Oh, no, you're straight.
Yeah, I accidentally hit exit, I think.
No, yeah, you're straight. Look, I've been trying to build my stack.
How many have you drank?
Let's see here. Well, you don't see like another 25 ounce, so probably like 6. So.
Oh God.
Man, it's my day off. I'm chilling out. I'm gonna go pick this girl up in about 30 minutes.
Sweet.
So we're gonna have to end it by then. But man, I'm hanging out today.
That's fun.
We just got on this app because I saw it on Facebook, and I was like, oh, I can debate people. I want to see if people are smart, and I've been pleasantly surprised with the level of discussion on some of these. On others, I've been
like the Argos reel.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, talking about purgatory, I'm like, dude, that's not even like a Catholic teaching. Like, whatever. I've read, the Bible, the Quran, Bhagavad Gita.
What's this Gita thing? Because you mentioned it last time. I just didn't know what it was.
The Banja
Yeah, the Banja Vajita.
It's the Hindu. Yeah, it's the Hindu book.
Oh, okay.
It talks about Lord Krishna and leading the forces of good over the armies of evil, and how it's a really interesting book, and I highly suggest people reading it just because it's a window into another culture.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the legitimacy of them, all of them are equally untrue.
Yeah. So you're just interested in what people believe?
Oh, I'm very interested. It's one of the most interesting questions.
Yeah, my dad's like that as well.
Why?
My dad's like that as well. Even though I think he's kind of a deist, even like non-religious, but yeah, he's read all like the Quran and all the religious books.
Yeah, and I've got to say, as positions go, I'm a lot of people call me an anti-theist. Yeah. Because I both don't believe in God and I don't believe it would be a good thing if he existed. I think it would be a horrible thing. But the deistic position, I'm one of those. I'm like, all right, like I'll give it to you. I can't disprove it. I can't disprove it. So what?
And at least it's not bad because the gods just chill.
God's not telling you to blow up anybody or shoot up that abortion clinic or say these bigoted things and things like that. And I just absolutely, I'm totally for that. And I respect the position. I do think, I don't think there's enough evidence for it.
Yeah.
If you read Hume, David Hume.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, you've already read it.
No, I haven't read his books, but I know of him.
Yeah, well, you'll find out soon enough. Then, it's more of what's the probability, that the natural suspension or the natural universe was suspended in your favor, or that someone has told a lie.
Mm-hmm.
You are mistaken. What's the more likely here? And let's make that doubly so if you're listening to somebody else tell it, or you're hearing a second account. A lot of people don't realize that the Bible, the Quran, a lot of these books were made 200 years after any of these people walked the earth.
Yeah.
These were pieced together by priests and caliphs and all these other people. People don't really understand that. No, all the graves in Jerusalem did not turn over when Jesus Christ was raised from the dead. That didn't happen. We know that for a fact from other historians at the time. So, yeah. Deism works though. I can't go against it. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
No, why do you think a deism position is more feasible over mine?
Oh, I don't know. I've just always had the position that, I'm actually going to take the exact same position that the ghosts are real guy took, minus the faith part, of course. I've always just thought the first cause argument is at least more plausible than everything coming from nothing or just it being random. Of course, I guess there could also be a multiverse as well. I don't know. I guess I'm more of an agnostic, but I think deism is more likely than atheism, I guess.
Okay. There's a very interesting YouTube video that Lawrence Krauss put out. It's called A Universe from Nothing. Highly recommend you watch that video.
I'll put it on my computer so I can watch it later.
I think you'll be very interested and very just very intrigued. I think it'll give you a few new questions to kind of take a look at. It's a little technical for my taste. He's going to go through some pretty advanced physics and quantum stuff with it. But as far as the logic and how we got to where we are today, it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have it loaded up here, so I'll watch it later.
No, yeah, absolutely. I highly recommend it. Yeah, I mean, do you have any other kind of questions for me?
I think we've covered most things.
We've kind of turned it around. Couple different topics for sure.
Yeah, there's actually a really good pivot you had earlier where I don't remember what we were talking about, but you like pivoted back to Hillary. Like that was a good pivot to go back to what we were originally talking about. But
Yeah.
I think we've covered most big button issues.
For sure. Like I said, man, I hate Hillary. I hate her. Oh man, some of the shit she's pulled, it's ridiculous. And yet,
to the polls.
And yet I've still got to do this. You know, it's a tortured position. Thankfully, I'm free of anybody that can kind of tell me otherwise. So it's nice.
Yeah.
But hey, honestly, before I do go, I will say this: both you and Austin, good luck at school. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a fucking blast. Have a social life. Go to bars. Talk to girls. Do your due diligence because you're going to have an absolute blast. College is the best 4 years of your life. You'll really enjoy it. Anytime you got free time, man, go explore, learn, have a fucking blast. There ain't no parents there, shake loose.
Awesome. Right. Well, thank you for talking to me. And if you think of anything that we haven't talked about in this and you want to do this again, just shoot me the challenge thing.
Definitely will. I've enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Absolutely.